Can you hear me, Drew?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, feed is live.
Yep. Great. Okay. Wait, are they just one-liners that I'm supposed to be reading, or are you? Gotcha. Great. Let's do it.
All right, turning up our audio. Give me 1, 2, 3, Drew.
One, two, three.
All right, where it looks like our levels are nominal. We are live.
Hello. I'm Andrew, and this is my friend. Go ahead.
I'm Arnie Diaz.
Hey, and today we are Kinetic Impression doing a movie review on the great movie, not so great sometimes, Head of State, with our favorite comedian that we talked about last week, the one and only Chris Rock. Uh, I will read a short synopsis real quick. Let's talk about this. A low-level Washington D.C. public servant, Maze Gilliam, played by Chris Rock, is thrust into the national spotlight when he is asked by Martin Geller, played by Dylan Baker, the head of the Democratic Party, to run for president after the party's presidential and vice presidential nominees are killed in a plane crash. The odds are against Gilliam, mostly because he has a penchant for telling the truth about what is wrong with the country. Remarkably, his straight talking style catches on with the public. And that is the synopsis. Arnie,
All right, so
how did you? Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's talk.
I do want to say, do you think we wanted to go through a couple reviews that we ran across while searching about this movie?
Yeah.
So from Rotten Tomatoes, which by the way, currently on Rotten Tomatoes, Head of State has a 30%, and the audience score is a 47%, a resounding 47%. A couple one-liners that I and Drew both have on this movie are by the Rolling Stone, a missed opportunity. Drew, you got another one for us?
Sorry, man. That's just really funny, dude. It was like it may be overly simplistic fantasy, but it's a funny one.
Nice, nice. And from the Village Voice, it's pretty much a toothless dog.
Um, I just lost mine. Sorry.
It's all right.
Yours are just good. They're cracking me up, man. I'm extremely liberal and went to see this movie looking for some Republican conservative bashing. I got it.
This from the Sacramento News and Review, quote, not available. Let me give you a real one, real one. Okay. From Common Sense Media, Chris Rock runs for president.
And I'm just gonna hit up one last one. With lines like these, what's not to like about this movie? I have been vice president for 8 years. I'm a war veteran, and I'm the cousin of Sharon Stone. God bless America.
God bless America indeed. Oh, so I think I should give our like overall thoughts of this movie, right? First up.
Yeah,
So Drew, this is a movie you wanted to watch after the election. Actually, I think you could watch it during the election. How did you enjoy this movie?
I love this. I love this movie. It's just it's one of those one of those things I probably shouldn't be proud to say that I like so much, but I love good Chris Rock farces like this. They are they're hilarious. I think he later on after this movie he gets a little bit more comfortable with his writing, but I think this is like the beginning towards something, and this is to me this is like a, a Happy Gilmore of Chris Rock. Like it's just a little rough, it's a little dirty, and it's really fun.
That's a really good way of putting it together. Because, like, I mean, overall, this is not a very impressive movie, but This is, I think his first writing and directing credit, right? And this, so I'll give my overall thoughts on this movie. Like, it's a farce. It knows what, it's not trying to be serious whatsoever. It's akin to like those 90s, early 2000s, just slapstick, even 80s, just slapstick movies, right? It's got like the feel of Airplane. It's outlandish. But I'll say this, a lot of the humor in this would not fly nowadays, right? I did want to say that some of the best parts of this movie were when Chris Rock's writing and his performance kind of came together and gelled, like some of his speeches that he gave during some of his like rallies, right? I thought were actually pretty cool, A lot of the social commentary in this movie, spot on, and reminding me how much our politics have not really changed whatsoever in like almost 20 years, right? Also, the fact that this movie takes place in 2004 and it was actually 4 years later that we elected a black president also makes this movie play so much differently.
I agree so much because I never heard that line that he says early on until, we were watching it recently, that he says, look, if we're the dumbass party that votes a minority in first, it means we don't have to actually like run with it.
Right.
We just like, we nominate a minority, but the other party will probably nominate like one and like try to go with it. And it'll be a bad idea next year when I try to run for president. I was like, oh my God, they're literally just trying to sabotage it every way possible.
But also kind of like but it also kind of looks like exactly what American politics look like now. And like it's a total slapsticky way, but it really does like put a mirror on what's going on.
You could write this movie today with the Donald Trump situation.
Absolutely.
Like, you could literally put this movie like, dude, we don't have anybody that can run this year, but we have somebody who can run in 4 years from now. So let's throw anybody out there. What about Donald Trump?
Yeah, let's just see what happens. Everyone likes him. He's probably not going to get elected, but you know what? Let's give him a campaign. Rile everyone up for next year. No, you're totally right. And I think that like, overall, just a fun whatever movie. Obviously the reviews weren't great. But at the end of the day, it's not a movie that takes itself seriously. It's just dumb fun. What it really is, though, is like the way that it actually allegorizes and just kind of satires our entire political situation and establishment is really spot on. It's actually like, with time, it's kind of aged like a fine wine, and it's kind of a little bit more topical in a lot of ways. I also want to say, performance-wise, Bernie Mac elevates the hell out of this movie. Bernie Mac, great performance out of him. And I think a lot of the humor is actually elevated because of Bernie Mac and because of Chris Rock's like chemistry together. They definitely bring a lot more to this movie together.
I think you're really right earlier with your statement when he starts with his speeches and stuff that bring him out.
Yeah.
Like that's where his writing and his writing clash with his acting skills. Yes. Or like just his comedic skills. But it just so happens that it's also when we introduce Bernie Mac, and it just takes off from there because I think he helps kind of give that extra boost. He's like those two extra engines on the rocket ship.
For sure.
Like he helps really like take us forward into it, and I think it ends up being a better movie once we get like more Bernie. I mean, like the bloopers at the end of him doing news interviews is gold. It's comedic gold.
Absolutely.
And the ones that they picked, it was just I'm sorry. This is so good. It was like he's like, yo, so like, how are you gonna run for vice president if you don't know what NATO is? It's like, I don't know who NATO is. And he's like, what?
I never heard NATO. I don't talk nobody behind your back.
Like, I thought you were talking about my homeboy NATO. And it was like, you went to jail for something. And it was just like, what? No. And it was like, do you know NATO? Do you know NATO? like, exactly. You don't know NATO. I don't know NATO. So there we go.
Dude.
What just happened?
No, that's actually what happened, though. That actually happened. That was a preview, like 10 years in the making of what happened in America. But yeah, dude, I think that Bernie Mac.
I'm just sorry. I just understood what you said.
Yeah.
It was just like, you're so right.
Yeah, like nobody knew. Current president didn't know who NATO was. He didn't know anything.
That's sad.
But like when Bernie Mac enters the framework of this movie, it definitely elevates Chris Rock's performance for sure, and it actually brings in more levity. You know, like it definitely like those two together make this movie a much better experience, right?
So
I also wanted to give a shout out to all the character actors in this movie because this movie is chock full of character actors that we see in movies all the time. So like this guy named Nick Cyrus. He always plays the bad guy. He was the other candidate, right? This guy named Dylan Baker was like his like white guy partner who like eventually turns into like his like actual partner in the movie. He's also in a whole lot of movies. And like one of the main guys that I wanted to shout out because this guy is in everything. Let me just make sure I got his name pulled up. It is James Ribhorn. James Ribhorn. You've never heard the name, but you've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He's the guy in like Independence Day where they're talking about Area 51, and he's like, no, actually, there is a thing, right? You know, you've never seen this guy, but you know who I'm talking about. Just like and like Nate Dogg, the random Nate Dogg in this movie, where he's like, where he plays the Greek chorus, right? Where he's like, he's the first frame of the movie.
Yeah, and he does most of the soundtrack. He actually does most of the soundtrack and score of this movie, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
But like, I just want to shout out a couple more. Keith David, who like we see in everything. He's always the deep talking. He's one of the deep talking like black guys that you see in every movie, and he's hilarious in this. So you get that appearance that we were just talking about Tracy Morgan, where he's just literally like, it's almost like a hip hop video.
Tracy Morgan.
Really really young Tracy, and he's selling steaks.
Yeah.
And like that's how he gets introduced is like he's at a gas station selling stolen steaks. And like who can make that shit up? That's so funny. Like, you know, like, oh yeah, I got some steaks I'm selling. And like just every joke in it with Nate Dogg, and then there's even one of my favorite guys from I don't know if you watch The Wire, but one of like my favorite characters in The Wire shows up, and he's a cop in The Wire. So to see him trying to sell his mixtape at a fundraiser in this movie, it's just totally polar opposite, and I think it's just hilarious. You know what I'm talking about? Like the guy is just like still trying to like, yo, there's some good music on here, man.
Yeah. And then like Bernie Mac just hits him in the face. Yeah, there's also that's another thing about what Bernie Mac does. His physical comedy in this movie is fucking fantastic too. Like towards the end, where it's almost a climax, and he's like gonna be the vice president, and he just like runs through like several characters trying to get at him to be like trying to use his influence, and he just like runs through them all. He just fucking hits them all in the face. It was just gold. The way the camera just followed him in the back.
When we first meet him in Chicago, I love this scene where he just like he looks at like one of the most powerful characters in this movie to me was I can't think of her name, but she's the speechwriter. She's like basically the head of the she's running the campaign.
Yes. The like she's like the female protagonist in this. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's very like you don't mess with her, especially in the beginning of the movie. She's very cutthroat.
Deborah Lassiter, played by Lynn Whitfield.
Yeah, and like when she gets introduced to Bernie Mac, it is so funny because Bernie Mac just like kind of flirts with her. And she's like, what do you do? And she's like, I'm a bondsman. Like, you know, he's been saying like I'm a bondsman.
Yeah.
And then like they want to laugh at him, but then he just looks at him seriously, and he just this thing that he does with his eyes, like he just cuts through you. And then she's like, hey, do you mind giving me and my brother a minute? And she just totally sinks to him. She's like, we can give you 5. And she never said that. Like, and I was like, that's just like a tiny moment where I'm like, I love that they're playing off of this. Like everyone's playing off of Bernie Mac right
Yeah,
now.
dude. Bernie Mac for sure just elevates the shit out of this thing, man. I miss, man. Can we get a moment of silence for Bernie Mac, bro? Man, this was a breath of fresh air for a second to just like see him in his like prime, dude. And this was like back when they were both like pretty hot in Hollywood, right? This was 2004, man. Isn't that so long ago?
Yeah, I mean, like, and we had a, like our, rest in peace, Bernie Mac. Rest in peace, Nate Dogg. Nate Dogg
Yeah,
lost.
they dogged that too. Damn.
But this was like a funny movie. I remember my other guilty Chris Rock pleasure is like the only other movie that he's like starred and directed or whatever he did. I don't know what he did, but it was called Down to Earth, and it's a remake. It's a remake of Heaven Can Wait. And if you know Heaven Can Wait, it's actually about like an Eagles football player, or it's about a football player who never gets his shot in the NFL, and he dies the day before his shot in the NFL. And so what ends up happening is, he goes up to heaven. He has to, and he's like, "Hey, man, you weren't supposed to die yet. This was a mistake. Somebody made a mistake. I don't think we were supposed to get you yet." And I was like, and then he's like, "You messed up my one shot." So they send him back, and he's like, all he wants is to be sent back as somebody who could potentially play in the NFL. But he gets sent back as another person. He has to start all over. He has to like do the tryouts and get like on the radar, and then he finally gets to live his dream of, being on the field and stuff like that. It's just a great like base of a story for a movie. And Chris Rock makes it his own in Down to Earth by being a stand-up comedian, and he just wants his shot at the Apollo. You can relate to this. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
One
Yeah.
shot. He wants his one shot at amateur night at the Apollo. And as a comedian, he has to work up to that. Like he can't, you can't just walk into the Apollo.
For sure.
You gotta like, work your way up and like know the right people to get you, and you gotta be known to be funny.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is the same thing happens, right? They get him a little too early, and they pick him up. They have to give him another temporary body. The temporary body that he gets is an old white dude. So he dies by mistake as Chris Rock in a poor car, like he's very poor, like he has a really shitty car. But then he comes back as this rich white dude with a Bentley. He keeps making jokes, thinking he's still black.
Oh my god!
he gets this girlfriend. Like he finds his girlfriend. She's like, "Why do you like me?" It's just so fucking funny.
I'm looking at the pictures right now. Yeah. I remember
this
movie.
It pans to him like being Chris Rock, and then because his personality is Chris Rock, so it pans from him being Chris Rock to the body he's in.
It's like a mirror.
Yeah, he keeps saying the N-word, and he's like, and then everyone's just looking at him at this club, like, what? You can't say that, white dude. Oh man, it is just another drop, like just hilarious comedy that is probably what you were looking at it. What's the rating on whatever you were looking at it?
I'm just looking at it on like the search for it on the.
Probably has just as bad reviews, but man,
it's got a 20% of Rotten Tomatoes. Down to Earth.
It's bad, but
it's got a 40% audience score. Way better.
It's just one of those things where like he writes funny stuff, and I don't think he was good at movies, but man, his writing is funny. So it's just something I like. These are two movies that like I really do enjoy to watch from time to time. They're kind of slapstick funny. I think we needed this with these dark
yeah. Times. The dark timeline that we're currently living in all of America. The darkest timeline there could possibly be.
The darkest timeline.
Yeah, this darkest timeline. Yeah, but, it was good.
I think we needed something. I wanted to throw this movie out there just because it is an election movie. It jokes 4 years prior to when we did elect a black president. It jokes how stupid electing a black president would be.
Dude, Oh my God. In that
Um,
vein, one of the best fucking scenes of this, and we're just gonna go full spoilers here. Like
let's do it.
when they fucking like put this like montage of news clips that just go, America might elect its first black president, and then all you see is an aerial shot of an entire suburb, and then all of a sudden hundreds of white people start running out of their homes and screaming.
And I
It's
remember this
beautiful.
moment so fluidly and so vividly because of it's the only time in any movie where one of Outkast's best songs gets played. Bombs. The song is called "Bombs Over Baghdad."
Yeah.
And it's just one of my
Bombs over
favorite
Baghdad.
energetic songs. And to see all the white is like for the first time, and they're like and they're just all running, and then it does that spot zoom into that
running.
one guy that's just like he's just like
yeah. Fuck yeah, that was brilliant. That was one of the funniest, and that's like that's the kind of thing that you only see in a slapstick, just farce of a movie. And it was
it's
just
something
perfect.
that I really felt like was real.
But
like,
it is.
It was real. It was real this year. It was like, in California they got the news and like, Democrats might be winning, and like everybody in California is just like running. What the hell?
Yeah, dude. It was that's one of the best moments of this film, man. But I do think that all of those things are true about this, but it is so remarkable that this is a satire, right? But it is so like putting a mirror up against our politics that we're talking about now that are actually have still been relevant. It's like a time capsule, right? Of like the things that we were talking about then, not that different than the things we're talking about right now.
And I really do think it's exactly what you're saying, but it's all these like mind games that like I'm
like
gonna
political parties play on the on the electorate.
The guy's like, I'm the head of the Democratic Party right now, but I'm not gonna run this year. I gotta, he knows his strategic move is to go next year when he has way more of a chance at going against the incumbent next year, and like he just knows. And so like I feel like that happens every day in life right now. Like it's not a smart move for somebody to run this year or the next election year. And it's like the Olympics, man. You got to know when you're at your prime.
Yeah.
And you got to know if this is going to be your last shot. You got to train hard for it. And that's how I feel like all these politicians, they're doing. They're just looking for their best shot to do it.
Yeah, and like the games that they're playing in this movie are actually pretty much the same game they're playing in real life. And we try to make fun of it, but there's a lot of truth to comedy. There's a lot. It's kind of where comedy usually starts.
For sure. When he doesn't want to run a negative ad, and he's just like, nah, man, let's just I want to do that thing where like instead of like being a negative ad on a negative ad, I want to just like kiss him. and like I just want to kiss him with kindness, like in the most negative way. And then like the next thing is just like, I don't know what it was, but I'm gonna say the other one, which was like, he likes cancer. Like, you like cancer? Like, I was like, what? Like that was the dumbest thing. It's just so dumb, dude. Like everything in the movie.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a fucking like it was a slapstick version of an election that was a really good kind of escape of an actual election that's happening in our world right now. It was good.
I will say, don't if you don't want to, if you think it's a waste of time, and you don't want to waste your time in watching this movie, find some YouTube video with some of the best jokes from it. You won't miss out. Like I'm sorry, you won't regret it. You'll have a good time. This is really funny. This is just what I needed. I'm so happy I watched it again. I got to remember in another 4 years to take it out and watch it again because it's going to be funny then. It's probably going to be funnier then because I can look back on this year and how ridiculous this year was, just like last year. It'll be a 20-year anniversary when I watch it again in the next 4 years from now, and I think it'll be great. I love watching Chris Rock become part of Mount Rushmore.
with the Morgan Freeman earring. right? Just glistening in the sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure, man. I enjoyed this movie too. It's a good palate cleanser for the world we're living in. It's a good fucking satire too about like the political world that we're still living in, even if though this movie's almost 20 years old. It's like 15 years old now, right? Good time, man. I think that's it, man. I think we did it.
Yeah, we did it.
We are Kinetic Impressions. Watch a fucking movie. We'll be back next week with the news episode, and then after that, another movie review.
Heck yeah.
I'm Arnie Diaz. You can find me on all the platforms at Arnie Diaz89. Look for my podcast, The Arnie Diaz Show, on all podcast platforms known to man. Drew?
I'm Andrew, and keep watching us in Kinetic Impressions, and I love you. Go watch a movie.
That's right. Kinetic Impressions on all the platforms as well. All of the podcasting platforms. You can listen to our reviews and all of our movie news there. Thank you very much.